Good morning. I will say morning because it's morning in Australia. So today I'm just going to give you a bit of a brief introduction about Advantage Solutions, go through the RMH iPOS and in a bit of detail, attempt a demo, which is always a challenging aspect of a presentation when you're sitting in Australia and most of the attendees are in the US. And then, as Corey said, hand over to Shift 4. So just quickly, who are Advantage Solutions? Obviously, as I said, we're down in Australia. We've been providing retail solutions since 1990, and we're an RMS and RMH reseller. We have our own in-house development team. In fact, back in 1990, we were developing our own retail solution. And to keep those guys busy, I come up with projects, which is where the RMH iPOS came from. And we've actually done a lot of other developments. So we've integrated to RMS to ERPs like SAP or SAP, JD Edwards, and etc. Some accounting packages, and we do a lot of custom POS plugins for our customers. So let's just get into the RMH iPOS. So we developed the RMS iPOS, which has morphed now into the RMH iPOS, and we developed it for a customer who said, we want to be able to do queue busting. We want to be able to serve our customers away from the counter where the register is. And so we started initially actually just providing quote and work order functionality. And as we went out to market with the product, we had a customer who said, look, we would like to make sales on it. And it sort of went from there. And then, of course, physical inventory, or what we call stock take over here. So it works on an iPhone, an iPad mini, an iPad professional, a normal iPad, iPod touch. So any of the Apple mobile devices. As I said, we do sales, quotes, work orders, and physical inventory. It fully integrates with the RMH database, the store database. So items, customers all synchronize across to the RMH iPOS. And that includes sale pricing, customer discounts, etc. And then transactions that are made, whether it be sales or quotes or work orders or a stock count, are synchronized back to the RMH database. So it's fully integrated. The RMH iPOS or the iOS device can work online or offline. So one of our customers said, that's fantastic. We want to use it in our sports stadium. And we said, great, just connect to the Wi-Fi there. And they said, well, our Wi-Fi connection is not necessarily the most reliable around the whole stadium. We said, no problems. Let's just connect to cellular data or mobile data. And they said, when we get 60,000 attendees or fans into the stadium, we can forget mobile data. So we actually made the product work switch seamlessly between online to offline. It's not quite seamless back the other way. So when you're in offline mode, you've got to say, I want to go back online. But if I'm in an online mode and I suddenly lose coverage, or my store's router stops working, or on a mobile and for some reason mobile data is just not reliable, it will continue to operate without any impact on the user. Recently, we integrated credit card processing through Shift 4 Payments, and they have a mobile pin pad or credit card reader. I don't know how well you can see the image on the slide, but it's the little if I use my mouse pointer, you can see it's the little device here. I have a video to show you how that works. And we scan barcodes. So you can use the camera on the device, or we've integrated a Bluetooth scanner. Just a bit of a heads up with the camera on the device. On an iPad, that is quite a complicated process because you have to move the iOS or the iPhone or the iPad towards in and out of the barcode because the camera doesn't zoom in or zoom out for focus. On an iPhone, that's quite manageable. On an iPad, that's not so easy. So this is just a slide on some of our customers who are using it. One of our customers is Amiga, and as I said, they actually were the ones that approached us and said, we would like to serve the customer away from the counter. They regard their products as luxury items, and I guess at $5,000 to up dollars a piece, they are a luxury item. And they said, we want to be able to serve our customers a coffee at a table, take down their details, record their sale. And if we need to then go and process a credit card up at the counter, that's fine. So for them, and they already had the iPad in the store, they were using it as an electronic catalog. So we developed, as I said, the work order functionality. So they can basically create a work order on the iPad, collect the customer details so they can actually add a customer into the iPad, walk up to the counter, recall that work order, and complete the sale. In fact, since then, we have added the ability to park or hold a sale. But initially it was the work order. We also have a customer, the top middle picture, who is a bathroom warehouse or showroom, and they sell bathroom and kitchen products. And in their scenario, they have this big warehouse, and they walk their sales staff walk their customers around the showroom, and would write down, so the customer would say, can you give me a price on that particular item, and can you give me a price on that item, and they would maybe have 10 to 15 items, and they'd handwrite it, and they'd go back to the RMH, key that all in while the customer's standing at the counter, then generate a quote. Now they're able to obviously scan those items or key those items or select the items into their I'll call it iPad, but it's iPad or iPhone or iPod Touch, as I said, into their iPad and generate a quote. And they can email that quote straight from the iPad. If they want to print it, they can print it also. The picture top right is actually the picture of a sports stadium. As I said, we have a customer who uses RMH in the stores, and their merchandise stores, and the merchandise stores traditionally are near the entrance and the exit gates. And what they said is, when we have 60,000 fans pile out at the stadium, we lose a lot of opportunities because many of those people just don't want to join the queues in the stores. They do, basically by that point they just want to go home. So what they do is they walk around the stadium and they sell caps and scarves and the typical souvenirs that fans want but probably don't want to go and queue up for. And for them, most of it is actually cash. So they're happy just to use cash. In fact, for credit card processing, we do have a device in Australia, but it's not particularly popular. So our credit card integration has been done in the US first, and thanks to Shift 4 with their cooperation, for their cooperation. Lastly, we have customers that use it as a pop-up store. So one particular customer is in a shopping mall, and the mall allows them to set up a table a few meters out the front of their store, and they have a bunch of items on the table, and they obviously sell those items as people walk past, and they do that on the iPad. And if the customer wants certain items that they don't have on the store, they're able just to direct them into the shop. We have other customers who go to markets, so they again may take a bunch of items and they set up a stand in a market and sell there. And traditionally, if you're RMS or an RMH reseller, you would install the software on a full license on a laptop, and they'd take a laptop out there and they would plug in a scanner, and there would be battery life issues, and obviously it would take up a fair amount of space and security issues, etc. Now they just have an iPad or an iPhone. It starts instantly. They don't have to wait for boot up. There's no battery life issues, etc. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about the RMH iPOS. As I said, there'll be a little bit of a demo. This is the devices and the payment processes that we have integrated. As I mentioned, Shift 4, we've integrated for the US market. You can see, hopefully you can see the pretty little picture. This is the ISMP4, which is the device that has been integrated. It is a UTG device, it attaches to the iPad via Wi-Fi and allows you to tap, swipe, or insert your credit card, depending on what your merchant's doing. And won't talk any more about that because Daniel will come on and talk more about their gateway. We've also integrated for barcode scanning to the Socket mobile barcode scanners. They have a number of devices. They have what you'll see in the bottom right picture there. They have a handheld device which sits on a lanyard. It actually works very well. It's quite reasonably priced. The battery life is impressive. Assuming my live demo works well, you won't actually see me scanning, although it's in one of the videos, but you'll see the speed of response. They have a number of devices. They do have a cradle-based solution, which is the picture in the middle, and that slips on an iPhone. I don't know if they have a cradle solution for an iPad. We've integrated into the application, and you'll see in the bottom left, the picture there, we actually, in the application, have a little icon which shows whether the scanner is attached or not. And that's basically just from a support perspective. If for some reason the scanner isn't Bluetooth connected, we didn't want people ringing going, my scanner's not working, my scanner's not working. We've actually added a lot of features to the RMH iPOS to minimize support and to make it as intuitive as possible. Okay, so I will attempt a live demo, but first I have a couple of videos, and that's because my live demo will just show you the application. You won't actually see the devices or the peripherals working. So this video will actually, the first video shows you the iPad working with the scanner and the Shift 4 pin pad, processing a credit card. And let me just start it. Hopefully you will all see this. Okay, a couple of things to mention there. Those are my beautiful hands. So if you're in advertising and you need a hand model, you know, you'll see my contact details shortly. More importantly, although the processing of the credit card was actually quite quick there, if you're worried about speed, that pin pad is actually connecting through our UTG in our office all the way over to the US of A. So the internet is fantastic. Our internet connection in the office is very average. In Australia, our internet connections are very average. So I've actually got this connected today through my mobile phone. But the point of that is that in the US, that response should be a lot faster. The second video is just me showing you, or the purpose of the video is for me to show how with an iPhone, you could actually use the camera to scan the barcodes. And this video also gives you a good example of how the RMH iPOS looks on an iPhone. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but you'll see that I'm actually moving in that case. In a couple of instances, I think I was moving the phone in and out to get the camera to focus. And in the last one, I was moving the item in and out to get the camera to focus. So the scanner is much, much simpler. And particularly if your customers want to do stock take, definitely a scanner is a no-brainer. Now I'm going to do something very brave, which is swap out of the presentation and go for a live demo. And let me just choose this. Okay, so now this is actually my iPad connected into my PC or my Mac. So you'll see this is the main menu that we have here. So as I said, we offer sales quotes, work orders. We call it stock take. We should probably change that to physical inventory. In this scenario, I'm offline, and the reason I'm offline is basically because I said the broadband in Australia, or at least in my house, is not fantastic. And since it's 6 AM, I'm working from home. And so I didn't want the iPad trying to connect to the internet as well as the presentation. But basically the functionality is very similar. So I go into sales and I scan my items and see my items come up here. I can pay by cash, or I can pay by the tender. We've added the denominations, so I can simply click on the denominations that the customer gives me. It tells me the change. Done. So that's a simple sale. What you'll notice in here, and I won't spend a long time on showing you every feature and functionality, otherwise we'll be here for another half an hour. But at any stage in the future, if any of you want to see any of the application details more or the application in more detail, you'll see my contact details at the end of the presentation. Please just email me. But we do things like the ability to discount the transaction. So I can simply scroll the discount or add, and you'll see now that the pricing is shown in red, which shows it's discounted, or I can discount a specific item. In fact, in here you can add a sales rep, you can add a serial number, you can change the quantity if you don't want to scan each individual item. You probably can't see what I'm pressing there, but I just increased the quantity to 5. So we have replicated a lot of the functionality that you get within the POS application, with the standard Windows POS application. You can see that if I want to add a customer to this, I can select. I don't know if I've got any customers in here. So let me just create one. I'm just going to put in here quickly. So I've now added a customer. You can see at the top here, the customer's added. If the customer's has an email address within RMH, then it'll automatically be populated into the customer email address. And the reason for that is because when I go and tender this off, I have the option. A lot of these options and the ability to change price and everything can be set by default, so we can actually switch this off. But if I had the customer's email address in there, I could email this receipt, and it would basically, depending on how good your internet connection is, it will in the store, it will go out pretty much straight away. I mentioned that you can park a sale. You can also do things like choose which items are displayed in this list. You can search by any word or letters within the description. You don't have to start at the beginning, etc. But let me just go and add an item So we have a recall hold here, so I can hold the transaction and then I can obviously recall that. Oh, not in this case, but normally I can recall that. I'd have to have a look at why that didn't work, but and I can recall transactions for return or void. So as I said, we've added a lot of the functionality that you see in the POS, and we try to do it in such a way that, as I said, it's intuitive and it fits on an iOS device screen, so either an iPad or an iPhone. Whoops, sorry. I accidentally pressed the return, so it's now prompted me for a reason code. So let me just go out of that. Okay. Quotes and work orders, I think you will have all seen in the RMH POS, so I don't need to show you that. In terms of the stock take, it will basically synchronize the count sheet from RMH and allow you to count here. Let me just see. Okay, yep. So what I'm now doing is scanning a barcode on an item, and you'll see it is automatically counting the item. In this case, in brackets, we are showing the stock on hand that is expected. That can be switched off. Most of our customers prefer that switched off. They don't want, obviously, the store staff to just type in the figure that is there. And instead, you can switch that off and just have colours. So, for example, red means that the quantity doesn't match. Obviously, I could probably do a minus 41, but it goes green when the count matches, and we record the date and time of the count, just like you can do RMH. And you can sort how this list is displayed. So you can have the counted items showing at the top, or you can have the counted items showing at the bottom. I won't scroll all the way to the bottom. Or you can do it in order, and you can do that on the fly. And then when you're finished, you can just synchronize it. And then you get sort of a similar list of prompts. So you sure you want to synchronize the count? Yes. And do you want to replace or add to existing counts? So we have customers who use multiple iPads to do their count, maybe 4 or 5, and they count the shop, probably in about a quarter of the time as they compared to what they used to do, and they would add those existing counts, so they can have multiple iPads counting at the same time. Okay. We do things like sit there and if you want to know what your total sales are, you can actually just click anywhere on the menu and it'll tell you your total. And then to close the, to do a Z report, you can't actually do a Z report or an X report on the iOS device. You close the batch and then you go into RMH, and in RMH you can view a closed batch, so it's a blind close, and you can generate an X or a Z report and enter your count there. So obviously in one of the points, and I'm going to go back to the presentation now. So one of the points that I haven't touched on yet is for RMH iPOS to work, you need an RMH base. And you need an RMH base in the store for a couple of reasons. One is obviously what I've just mentioned, that if you want to generate an X or a Z and do a reconciliation, you need somewhere to go and enter your count, and you would do that in the RMH manager. More importantly, if you want to add items and change prices and so on, you can't do that in the RMH iPOS. It's simply a POS application, so you need a manager application, an RMH manager application to do that. And thirdly, we need a database to connect to. Okay, so how does it work? I won't go into a lot of detail here, but this is just to give you a bit of a quick overview. As I said, it works on multiple iOS devices. They can connect via Wi-Fi or cellular data, or in the case that in my demo, it was offline the whole time, so I can actually just use this offline. Connect in the morning. One of our customers who uses the pop-up store, they go and pick up their items the night before that they're going to take out to the market. They synchronize then to make sure they get all the prices. They go to the market, they do everything in an offline mode. They go back to the store at the end of the day, return the items and sync. And you'll probably have noticed there's a go online button there, so I can just press that and I connect to the network. It connects to the RMH database using a web service that we've developed, and that web service requires Microsoft IIS. Microsoft IIS is just a standard Windows feature. There's no additional licensing. It comes with desktop Windows and server Windows, and it's pretty simple to switch on, and it's just a feature. And we also have, so our web service through IIS communicates with the database, and if it's online, if the RMH iPOS is online, obviously that communication is frequent. If it's offline, that is when I press go online on the RMH iPOS. We also have an application which we call the RMH iPOS Synchronized Settings application. And there's a number of screens, and I've just done a bit of a screenshot. So these are the screens on the right-hand side of the presentation, and that's where you can choose the defaults for many of the settings. So I'm not sure if you can read it, but the very first option you'll see at the top is it says, allow a price change in the RMH iPOS. So allow them to overwrite the price, allow the cashier to set a discount, show stock on hand, etc. There's the prompt for receipt. So we do a bunch of things, and you'll see in the settings options down the bottom that we have an option to either sync all the items to the iPOS, to the RMH iPOS, and sync the customers. We have a customer, in fact, this first customer I talked about, which was Amiga, they are highly paranoid about their data. And so the RMH iPOS in their case is fairly dumb. It doesn't store any data on the actual device. Everything is checked. So if they scan a barcode of an item, it connects through the web service to the database and pulls back the item details. The reason being, they're worried that someone might be able to steal the iPad from their store, and they don't want any customer details or any pricing information on there. So if they do, they've got the application, but no data. Works well. They're not a high volume or a high transaction store. So we've found that works well with some customers and doesn't necessarily work well with all customers. It just depends on the amount of transactions, how good their Wi-Fi is, how many RMH iPOSs they have, etc. So it's a bit of suck it and see. But you can mix, so you might sync the items but not the customers, because their customer data may be crucial. There was something else I was going to mention there, but it's slipped, so apologies for that. Okay, so the most important part, how do you order it? You can actually download the RMH iPOS application straight from the Apple Store. And if you haven't already done so, I suggest you do that now. It's free. It's a full working version. What that will do is connect to the RMH database in Australia and in our office, and it has this RMH sample data sitting in the database, and you'll sync your items, you can make sales, you can do whatever you want. You just can't connect it to your own RMH database. You order the license through the RMH order portal. And that licensing gives you access or gives you the ability to run the synchronization program and the web service against your own database or your customer's database. If you're a partner, you can order an NFR key. There are some instructions on who to contact, which is basically us once you've got your NFR key, and we're more than happy for no charge to set up RMH iPods to work with your database in your office. If it's a customer, obviously you order it and we will help you set it up. We do have the sync settings. We do have a self-install program, but for the first 2 customers, we're more than happy, free of charge, just to help you set it up. Hopefully after the first 2, you know how it all works, and you only need us if you've got any technical issues. But you can ask us to do it ongoing. The retail price is $6.50 per license. As I mentioned, and I just highlight again, you do need an RMH base license, but you can have one RMH base license for multiple RMH iPods licenses. So one base license, and you could have 20 RMH iPods licenses if you want in the same store. The maintenance, you all know your reseller discounts, and the RMH iPods is actually on the pricing catalog, so you'll see all the pricing in the pricing catalog. And that's it for me until the question time. So I'm going to hand over to Daniel now, and he can tell you all about Shift4 payment integration.
Great, Richard. Thank you very much for the intro, and that just looks so great what you just showed everybody. So if you can advance to the next slide, I will make sure I keep the next 90 minutes. I'm just kidding. I'll keep the next few minutes very concise. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and I think it was actually the next slide, but that's okay, just kind of who Shift4 is, and then I'll get into the description here. Thank you. Yeah, we'll start here and then we'll go backwards. Shift4, we are a payment solutions provider. We offer the connectivity from the Advantage RMH solution to all of the major processors in the US. So your TSYS, your First Data, your Vantiv and such, that's what we're handling from a credit card communication. We also have a certification for this solution, so we're also working with not only our own gift card, but multiple third-party gift card solutions as well. Your Shift4 Your Card, GiveX, Stored Value Systems, ValueLink, ValueTech, just to name a few more of theirs. So this is a one-to-many integration that's been performed. And with our solution being the inventors of tokenization and having a validated point-to-point encryption strategy and supporting EMV, we are offering what I would call the trifecta for all of the users. So that's a full validated P2P, tokenization, EMV solution. That is what is standard. One thing I did want to mention on the processing and connectivity, besides working throughout the US, and there are projects so long-term in Canada, this will be supported, so we can have our P2PE and be able to mobility there. As of today, we're also able to go into other countries because of a certification we did with Visa for what's called their Direct Connect platform. So every international bank that they bring on, Shift4 automatically works with. So that means that that's with the solution, same devices here, full P2PE, and I can go throughout the Caribbean to the West Indies, and we're going to start going into parts of Latam. I believe Visa told me they're bringing on Banorte and Banamex as an example in Q2 of 2018. They are moving into Brazil and other areas. So the cool thing is this solution will be able to grow, but also from a connectivity perspective, that's going to be there too. As far as Shift4 and where we were and where we are now, as some of you may have seen a press release that went out about a month and a couple of days ago, that we also are able to do processing. So businesses can continue with the financial relationship they so have been working with, but there are options now for Shift4 to do the processing. So we can handle both sides of it. And what does that mean? Well, with some of our models, they are changing and working more with the partner community. So for example, if it's gateway only business, we can actually train the partner for installing the UTG software that Richard mentioned earlier, and just doing the slight device configuration for it to talk to the UTG. And by doing that, Shift4 is prepared to remove all of our upfront fees for gateway-only business. So it's just ongoing transaction fees as well. That's it. For the processing side of things, if a business elects to go with the processing aspect, then not only do we have the same thing where the upfront gateway fees are removed, but there will be no ongoing gateway fees either if they're using processing. So we have options, but this is very much supportive for the dealer community to be more hands-on and being able to get deployments to move faster. So I did want to mention that. As far as the device flow, and Richard, if you go back to that previous slide, so I'll go through kind of the step-by-step process at a high level. As you can see there, we have the tablet. There's a communication from the tablet to talk to the UTG software to say, I need an authorization for $100. And we know which workstation, which tablet it is. The UTG is therefore going to talk to the appropriate P2P device. At this moment, it is the Ingenico ISMP4, and that is talking via the Wi-Fi same network, talks to that device. It is prompting for the credit card to be dipped, swiped, or keyed in. It is doing point-to-point encryption. So that credit card is being encrypted and sent all the way to the UTG software, which is then doing a second full point-to-point encryption of all the data received. And that is being communicated all the way over to Shift4's host. We're going to the appropriate credit card processor, and we are requesting, therefore, the authorization. We're getting back the response. Shift4 is generating the token and the auth code, and that is being given all the way back to the iOS solution here, and we're communicating back to the device that the transaction was successful. From UTG to processor and back averages sub 1 second. So this is a very fast solution. So reliability-wise, we as a company are at 100% uptime for approaching 10 years. So reliable, yes. Fast, absolutely. Secure, we've got a double layer of point-to-point encryption. This is the base standard solution that everybody will be able to get. So this is available now, and we're really happy for the opportunity to be able to briefly describe what we can do and support what has been put together by Advantage and RMH for this iOS solution. And I'm going to hand this right back over to Richard. Thank you very much, sir, for those few moments.
Thanks, Daniel. I think, Corey, it's now question time. Is that?
It is. Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Daniel.